Have you ever got stuck on a website? One with many interesting little bits and pieces, stories, anecdotes, and fascinating snippets of information, more or less related to the original search. As long as the navigation is reasonably easy and one can dip in and out without losing one's place, it is possible to spend a very long time doing nothing in particular. I have just done this on a language learning site, with the intention of finding a piece of information and going straight back to my project. But one thing led to another, then another, and yet another. Only the thought of the dinner potatoes boiling away to a watery mush made me exit the website, but not without adding it to my favourites for a later comeback. I wonder whether that was a good idea. However, I enjoyed reading the visitors' contributions on languages in general, with discussions, tips on learning, and the howlers that sometimes resulted whilst they were trying to make themselves understood in the new language. It reminded me of school days when we learned French and German, and the difficulties encountered when the new word was very similar to an English one, but with an entirely different meaning. I was very keen on languages at school, although they were taught in a very bookish way, with minimal emphasis on speaking, and rather too much on writing and translating passages. I think they assumed that if you could translate and write correctly, then speaking it fluently would occur as a natural result. This was certainly not the case. As with writing, there are hesitations and corrections happening all the time, with no incentive to make an instant response, as one has to do when talking. There was none of today's technology for easily creating, storing and sharing sound files, and no internet where one could listen to native speakers. There was no time for us to have lengthy conversations to practice our skills. In addition to this, there was the problem of the intrusion of English. The book was written with English instructions. Vocabulary lists were accompanied by their English equivalent, and we did a lot of written translation to and from English. In other words, the English language never took a back seat, and so the new language never really stood a chance of being properly mastered. In the same way, shorthand will be relegated to the back seat, all the while you have printed words before your eyes, and longhand coming from the pen, and with no incentive to write quickly and instantly. Reading shorthand, writing it neatly at your own pace, and converting printed matter to produce practice sentences all have their place, but they do not compare to writing from live speech, when you have to respond instantly with the correct outlines, and at the same time listen to the next few words. Under pressure, you will do whatever habit is the strongest, and a lifetime of writing longhand will attempt to intrude. The shorthand habit has to be stronger than the longhand one, and only practice will achieve this. Using it for real-life situations, such as private notes, appointment diary, telephone calls, and shopping lists, ensures that you are getting immediate benefit from your efforts right from the outset, and is a great encouragement to progress further. This is the best way to make it part of your daily life, so that you use it automatically when required, and not as some special endeavour during study periods. Fluency in a language and in shorthand means providing an instant response, as there is no time to construct the sentences from grammar rules or outlines from theory. Everyone learned their own language by copying and repeating the words and phrases spoken to them, and creating new utterances by rearranging what they already knew. I have never seen a child hesitating whilst working out the grammar for what they wanted to say, or heard a child mispronounce a word because of its unusual spelling, seeing as they learned it long before they could read. Fast shorthand has to be the same, with no thought of spelling or theory, and with new or difficult words, written based on outlines already known, whether the whole word or just separate syllables to prevent a gap. Speech and handwriting seem to happen instantaneously when called for, through constant use over the years. Shorthand can occupy this same elevated and privileged position as well, and achieved in a much shorter space of time, because definite targeted practice is taking the place of the haphazard way that speech and handwriting were acquired. The more you surround yourself with it, the easier it will become. To me, longhand seems like running through knee-deep water, where a lot of energy is expended, with only a slow progress forward to show for it. Shorthand is called the winged art, an apt description of the pen flying along the line with ease and speed. Once you are well into your shorthand journey and enjoying the benefits of writing extremely briefly, then writing longhand increasingly becomes a tedious, dreary, monotonous, and frustratingly slow way to write. You may find yourself spontaneously breaking into shorthand, unable to watch your hand's slow progress through the convoluted letters of the traditional alphabet. Filling in paper documents becomes an exercise in patience, and maybe even some sympathy for those who can write no other way. Your existing longhand writing, even when done slowly, can be described as an instant response, as you can probably write whilst thinking of other things, or at least thinking ahead to the next few words. This should be very encouraging for the shorthand student, as it proves that complicated shapes and movements can be done rapidly and without too much thought, as long as they are learned and practiced sufficiently. Your hard work will eventually result in your shorthand taking its place alongside all those other instant response habits that you now possess, like speaking your own language and writing your signature, without any qualms about how to do it. I am also sure that you are now on your way to having a mind and hand that can produce shorthand outlines instantly, immediately, suddenly, rapidly, swiftly, speedily, hastily, without delay, and, most importantly, accurately, for anything that you wish to record on paper.